The mic. Hello and welcome back to Somehow We Manage episode 2. It is Super Bowl Sunday. I am just getting back and I got my buddy Sam here. We're here to talk about anything we want to because that's what this podcast is. How are you doing, Sam?
I'm living. I'm living. How about you?
I'm living. Honestly, I'm a little bit bummed about the Super Bowl game. I'm not going to lie. I hyped myself up and I'm disappointed.
I am so sorry. As a Chiefs denier, the Super Bowl did kind of go in my favor, although a route isn't fun. I don't think a route is ever fun, is it? Like,
No, it's not, but I don't know. I was thinking it was gonna be a different year. Like I know I'm not a Chiefs supporter. Like I will be 100% honest. I'm not a Chiefs supporter. I did send you that one joke that if they did win tonight, I
yes,
was gonna become an unironic fan.
I love it. That's good. That's some good stuff there.
But I just I don't like the Eagles either, and like I just was expecting a closer game. Like I don't know why I expected because here's my thing, and I mentioned this all night to like my buddies who I was out with tonight. Um, no shit. New streamer. I don't know how to change scenes. Um, fucking. I wanted the game to be a lot closer. Just the fact of the Eagles. Yes, they created the tush push like back in what 2019. I think so.
Yeah, it might have been right before, yeah, the pandemic, yeah.
And like that revolutionized football. And so I was going into the game thinking if anybody was going to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, it was going to be the team that created something, and they created something. And all they did, and like, don't get me wrong, it was a brilliant thing because he didn't know how to react to it because he doesn't get blitzed that often, or Mahomes doesn't get blitzed that often, but they literally blitzed on every single play on him and fucking dominated.
Well, if you watched, I spend a little bit of time, I volunteer my time over at my local community college doing their media and marketing. And you can clearly see the difference between a strong offense and a strong defense. If your offense is getting pushed back, like stood back up by a defense, it's over. It's absolutely over. It's no different than like in esports. If you give an inch, it's basically a mile in any sort of game. Capture the point, um, capture the flag, uh, push the cart. I mean, even like you could do like what is the dog tag game where you get dog
Oh,
tag multiple people?
kill confirmed.
Kill confirm. Think about that, right? When you commit to a rotation, that opens up a spawn, and you can spawn kill people, right?
Yeah.
But by sitting on a single spawn and not covering other spawns, you now open space. That is now a mile in between your enemy, and that can just switch it up. So football's no different. They gave up way too much and didn't give up like they didn't push in enough. Like I don't know. It's so difficult. It's such a hard game to deal with. I would never be able to survive it, to be honest with you. Not
Yeah.
sure about you.
I nope. I honestly every time I'm screaming out of football game, I'm like I could do better, but no. Ideally, no. Like the mentality alone, especially when you have like 6'4" people running at you at full speed, like you gotta have the brain to be able to take that. Also, the brain to be able to throw the ball or make a decision within like seconds. And most of the time, that's like, I mean, for a normal human brain that's impossible. I relate a lot of it to you ever seen the F1 drivers training their reflexes? You ever seen that game
Yes,
where
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
like they have like their hands above and they have to like grab the baton as it falls to the ground?
Yes, yes. That I've seen a couple Instagram
That's
posts of
what I
that.
think about.
Yeah.
Is like you got to have those kind of reflexes in your head to make a decision. And like I don't know. I didn't see a lot of decision making tonight, and even then, like, it was just I don't know. I was just bummed. I excited myself that the game was gonna be so close. Like, I was saying it was gonna go to OT. Like, I was saying all kinds of crap. I was prepared for like the best game of my life, and I just sat down and watched. I mean, the Chiefs get beat down, which fun after a whole season of beating everybody else. Excuse
But
me.
a route isn't fun,
True.
right? Like that's been my like we mentioned that before. A route isn't fun. Like having a closer game, it creates I don't know, I think it gives a better storyline to all the players. It's not like if you looked at it, I think Mahomes had 2 interceptions,
He
or at
had,
least at the time
I think he had 4 at the end of it.
oh my God. Yeah, that and he had like 6 sacks against him.
Yeah. 7 interceptions by
It
the end of that game.
oh my
I'm
God.
pretty. Hold on, I'm double checking my stats, but I watched a lot. I think I watched at least
Yeah.
4 of them, like that I remember. Damn. Yeah. No, that's insane. I. You're right. Going the same pattern is not always fun, you know. And like, yeah, them
Yeah.
winning
Two
3 would have been.
interceptions.
Yeah. 2 interceptions? Oh, I thought it was a lot more than that.
I'm looking at the stats. Oh, maybe it was more, but I'm looking at it. Let's see. 2 interceptions, 3 touchdowns. So sorry, spoilers for anyone out there who watches
Yeah.
Uncle Pay.
3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Yeah, damn. Yeah, no, that's insane.
But it's a mental again, it is just a genuine like all these games from like touch sport like physical touch sports like hockey, football, basketball to online. It is I go back to the 90-10 rule. 90% is out of game, 10% is in game. And to be honest, I don't think the Chiefs, if you looked at the Chiefs, they just were not there. If you looked
No,
at it, they just got their ass kicked.
you're absolutely right. Like, and you could tell just off of honestly the first play of the game. Like, they, and I was mentioning this all night, is like they understood one part of the game. And that whole like 90%, 10% in game and out of game, the in game you also have to be good at in order to win no matter what. Like you can practice one thing over and over again, but doesn't mean it's going to translate 100% of the time. And like that's a lot of the issues that a lot of players, even like professional like sports and esports players struggle with, is like you can focus on so much mental and so much like grinding towards one thing, but if you just focus on that one thing and only that, you're going to lose the rest of the game. And that part that is mental is even a heavier weight no matter what, because if you're grinding and you're sitting there for hours upon hours, you're going to hit a wall. And how do you get past that wall? And I'm sure you know a little bit of ways you could definitely try to figure out past that wall.
I mean, let's be honest, like anyone in esports has had to be a part of it in the sense that from a manager to a coach to an analyst, it really goes down the line, like the checklist of people that step up. And I've seen plenty of managers that have stepped up before I even have said anything. I've had an analyst who turned into a head coach who was fantastic. Like he went from an analyst to a coach to a genuine like head coach god, in my opinion. Mayo, shout out Mayo, great kid. Um, although he didn't have the most rousing speeches, like sorry Mayo, he understood the players at their core. He was like the fine line between knowing the game so intimately that he could basically like you could probably blindfold him and he would know exactly what's going on by just the audio from comms plus the game. And he's able to then reset their mental being like, okay, like there was nothing you could have done there because X, Y, and Z was occurring. Or you could have done this better, but you were occupied there. It anyone can do that if they're really good at the job. And mind you, people falter. I've had my moments for sure, like that. I've Bale's kept it together for me before. Like he stepped up a bunch of times for me when we were at Triumph.
I mean,
So did
even
Miss Sandman.
I can relate it
But
to like I've played for high school sports. I was a team captain too, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've definitely increased my confidence since then, but I'm not a public speaker very well at all. You know, like I get nervous. Hell, you guys can probably tell I'm nervous right at the start because I don't know what the frickin' to say. I just say what comes to my mind immediately, you know? And like it's so difficult being in those situations, especially when you're down. Like when you already are having a hard mental day, it is so much harder to bring others up. Granted, you as a captain or as a manager, you should always be trying to bring them up. But some days it's just harder than others, you know?
And I'll refine this down, and I won't discount what an analyst does. I will not discount what a manager does versus a general manager. But day-to-day operations, if you think about a general manager, they're objectively the person right in between ownership and what the team needs to do, and their stress levels are completely different than a head coach roster. That roster head coach may be getting absolutely nailed over the head by management to change things. Mind you, maybe not their manager on the team, but general manager for
Mm-hmm.
changing the team because they're not winning. And that doesn't usually occur. Mind you, esports does not, like, unless you're in the very, very professional level, your general manager basically does nothing other than communicate what upper management is doing versus, I mean, it shouldn't be called lower management, but essentially it's treated as a second class. You know, you have your coaches, your staff
Mm-hmm.
members that are there. So there's all these different narratives happening, and I think the best, and I've seen it in you, saw it in Mayo. I mean, shout out to Clay. Clay's fucking amazing. Young gun, Karsten, amazing. Like, you know, when you've been in the industry long enough that you know how to manage those personalities, you know how to manage those positions, and you can respect what they're dealing with and create an environment that maybe not everyone wins, but everyone gets a shred of dignity. And that's the goal, I think, at the end of the day, is trying to leave some people with some dignity because it's hard taking a loss. It's hard taking a win and then telling a player that it's not working out, even though you won, it's not working out. We could have, like, the idea, and I've had this happen where we could have won harder if we had put in another player. And that's why they're either getting benched or we're dropping them.
Yeah, I mean, even like that's kind of why I always like whenever I'm walking into a team. I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this in the last one, but I always try to find the longevity of a team before I really join because like I personally don't like building those relationships and then just losing them. You know, granted, I'm not fully losing them because I can always keep in contact and stuff like that. But those relationships, I work very hard to get into show grow and let it prosper, you know, because like I care a lot about the people that I work with. So, like you can just probably like I mean feel it from me, I'm sure, because I've texted you almost every day, you know, just to make sure you're good. I don't even care if we don't have a full-blown conversation. And like that's the thing is like I build these relationships because I put a lot of work into them, and like I always try to find longevity and stuff because I don't want to sound bad. It's gonna sound bad the way I say this, but I really have no filter here. I don't want to waste my time.
So let me shout you out then. Hashtag support team growth. What you guys are doing is what I am hoping the industry will change towards is an investment in the players, an investment into the environment, an investment into the staff. And I'm not going to be like the armchair quarterback saying, "Oh, it's so refreshing to hear this," and like, blah, blah. No, that's some bullshit. It really is some bullshit because like, uh, they're here today, gone tomorrow, forgotten about the next day. You know, and that won't. I I won't say it won't because I think that'd be such a bad fucking narrative to send, but I don't think that's something that will happen to your team because I think there is a bigger investment by everyone. And I think that's the culture. That's the difference is the culture. What can we do culturally to get people excited, invested? What can we do? And that's hard.
Well, and that's why I want to like with team growth. Like I'm trying to push the narrative that the audience is involved. Like, I mean, I always say it. They're my like baseline because I really love their structure that they have. Nouns, they do it really well, including the audience. Like ability to even do stuff out of esports. They just built 2 Ugandan schools, which I think is really, really cool that an esports team can do stuff outside of their own realm and that others are enabling that to happen, you know? So that's kind of what I'm like generically thinking about is just I want the audience to be involved because they're the ones who genuinely are supporting the scene. I want a different narrative on the scene. I want people to be excited about it again. I want people to be involved a lot more than they were ever before. Because without community involvement, there's no tournaments, there's no audience, there's no interaction, there's nothing. Everybody outside of the esports scene is more important than the people inside the esports scene. They're the reason that that people are superstars. If it weren't for Simple having such an amazing base behind him, he would be nobody. He would be some kid playing Counter Strike.
I mean, that could literally go for any of the greats. And I think
I mean, Shroud just raised a
maybe
million
that
dollars.
Shroud, Jordan Nothing, San Diego native, love him. Hopefully, maybe I can get a hold of him. Maybe we can bring him on.
That would be a
Um,
dream come true. Dead ass
I
dream right there.
I can try and reach out to him. I mean, you think about Nade Shot, think about Hex, you think about all these guys who have been the giants. I mean, as much as we DM'd each other about this about complexity, not complexity. Was it complexity?
yeah,
Hastro? Yeah,
yeah. We've been talking about complexity a little bit in DMs. I
he is
mean,
still like as much as I don't like him coming back and trying to quote unquote fix or not quote unquote, but my bastard quote like fixing the scene or bringing it back to its core. I mean, we've done deep dives. I'm not gonna perjure myself or like speak badly of them like without some like full wider proof, but it just doesn't work. They don't understand what made this great, which again, the fan base has got to love you. It doesn't matter if you're fucking 15 years old, it doesn't like 15-year-old organization or you're 6 months in or 3 months in and you're winning and you have a good fan base, or even if you're losing, you have a great fan base. Like everyone loves an underdog, but you can't just manufacture it anymore. It's just bullshit.
I mean, and also like a lot of people are gonna see through that bullshit no matter what. Like that bullshit is easy. If I'm gonna be honest. I mean, a lot of us can't smell it come from a mile away, but a lot of us can too. And like, well, I'm gonna speak negatively on fucking complexity. You're right. They can't manufacture fucking underdog stories. They're literally shilling out money to buy some of the best players and try to win tournaments. Envious is doing the same thing. I keep bringing these guys up too. They're all of a sudden back, and just because they have some sort of following, they are dragging back some of their best players underneath them, you know? And it's like, okay, you're bringing back the old organizations, but what's different? Nothing feels different. And like, Envious even posted that they're doing it with 0 sponsors, practically begging for sponsors to come back. And it's like that's bad on all of us, no matter what. Because I don't want to beg. I feel like this should be a substantial growth between everybody, and begging for your sponsors to come back is kind of a cop out. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't even, to be honest, like I didn't even see it as begging. It was more of like maybe like again, I think that's probably the problem with the industry. I think for me is no one really knows what the messaging is. You saw it as begging. I saw it as begging at first, but I almost saw it as a middle finger back to the industry saying, well, Adobe isn't paying us anymore to do this shit because like we didn't guarantee him the money, even though we did guarantee him the money, like or the product placement. Like oh, like gamer subs. We had a $10,000 agreement and we ran all our ads, but when gamer subs went back into their inventory to figure out like what did that $10,000 investment get us? What did it get them? Like, let's be really real. Like, I think 100 Thieves is a material brand. It's not a and what I, and I'm that may be confusing excuse my stuttering, but they're there to sell materials. They aren't winning. They did not bring back their LCS or their NLC or whatever it's called, the new LATAM America or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They didn't buy their spot back. They're feeling the shrinkflation of being an organization that doesn't have a large fan base. They have a good fan base. They just don't have a large enough one to substantiate a fucking complex in Beverly Hills that sells overpriced merch. They just don't. Like the Eagles can. The Chiefs, I'm going to tell you, the Chiefs can still sell it even after losing. They're going to sell their shit for $100+
Yeah, they're still gonna have fans no
Like
matter
shout out to
what.
Kansas. Yeah, shout out to Kansas City. I love it. Like that. I have so many people from Kansas City I could go over. I love Kansas City for the fact that they are passionate about their sports. They love their soccer team. Goddamn Kansas City in the middle of out of nowhere has a soccer team. Like, come on, man. Like
And they
San
just do
Diego
it for the
just got
love.
their soccer team.
They just do it for the love of
Yeah,
the games.
but esports doesn't have that, and I think that like I think that's a good. Can I do a little call in there for
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
one of my points? So I watched an excellent video. Let me see if we can do like maybe I'll cut this for us later. Let me find the video I sent to you. Uh, Stuart Barron. Uh, shout out to him. Maybe we'll cut a clip and show it to him, like his clip or his video.
Yeah.
It's the point people missed about cars. And mind you, I could be completely taking this out of context, but he talks about the analysis of being the end of or at the end where it's him stopping and then pushing the old guy, even though he had like Lightning had earned like his cup, his prize, but he realized that the old guard laid down so much space for him, and not just that, he had already kind of garnered his fan base. He'd already won the hearts and the minds of the people. He's this young gun coming out of nowhere who just, although not a good human like Carr, but a good person at the beginning, he learns humanity and learns to respect the old guard, and the old guard respects him back. We don't really have that in esports. The young guns just want to win, and the old guard want to hold on to what's left because I don't think Scump can win against the new guys. I just don't think he can. I don't think he has the gusto to do it anymore. He just doesn't. Nade is getting shit on by like kids half of his age. He could literally be having kids. Like he could have a child that age and he's getting shit on by them.
Yeah.
Like there's no, and mind you, let me go back to what let me wrap up Stewart's point is like there is this emphasis of trying to build a legacy and this idea that we respect the past, we support people from the past, and then not only that, we understand what it means. Like, what does the Piston Cup mean? What does it mean to win the Dota 2 TI? Look at the history of people that have won it, the greats. Look at like CS:GO majors. You got Simple, a kid from Ukraine. His country is still fighting a war in. Like Navi is like historically just a one of the great
Hmm.
orgs.
Absolutely. I mean,
How
I
do we
used to be a huge
foster that?
Navi fan.
So my question to you is how do we foster that? How do we bring that through? How do we do this? Because at the end, like we don't want another envious. We don't want another complexity. We don't want a meat puppet. Like there is no innards to it anymore. There really isn't. I don't care if Jason Lake is back. I don't care if Astro is back because they fucked it over. It's the same thing with Hex. Like Hex, let me ramble for a second. Hex left after selling his majority stake to the Texas Rangers. He left a majority of the staff unattended with new ownership. New ownership doesn't know what the fuck to do because it's an esports team. They're an endemic baseball organization. And they have other ownership, yes, I know. But their marketing teams, what the hell do they know about esports? What the hell do they know about Call of Duty? What the hell do they know about 16-year-olds getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars going to go play a game? And mind you, it's not just a game. I'm not going to shit on anyone that way, but to them it's just a game. Like some of those baseball players have kids that play Fortnite. Like they may play Fortnite themselves, but they do it as a for fun thing, or maybe it's a little competitive, but it's not. They're not winning millions of dollars to go play a game, or they're not playing the game to win millions of dollars, vice versa. Hex fucked over the industry by leaving his baby unintended, came back, blamed Rangers pretty much for destroying his organization, and then tried to convince everyone that it wasn't his fault. I'm sorry, if you leave your child unattended and they get hurt, what do we usually do?
Blame the parents.
Well, not just that. We call fucking child protective services too. Like that's the other part.
Go that far, yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, if you want to go to that depth, yeah,
So,
absolutely. Because like you're right that that child should be taken and like taken care of somewhere else. You know, because you clearly don't care about it enough. Clearly, it wasn't your responsibility, or you at least thought it wasn't your responsibility. And like,
so,
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say Optic's just one of those like one of those teams, like one of the greats, and like it's sad to see one of the greats just get shit on.
So let me round it back to you. Like let me try and figure out a way to create more dialogue here. When it comes to these optics, complexities, um, oh, what was the other team we just mentioned? Complexity, Optic,
Envious.
Envious. They were all one organization under Game Square at one point, and then they got resold and redistributed, going back to their owners. Like realistically, where do we go from here? Because they're already getting Series A investments, meaning like, so if people don't know that, if they've never experienced venture capital or investors, Series A is typically the first round of investments that are privately held. So if George opened up a restaurant, he'd hit me up and be like, Sam, I need $100,000. Would you be willing to invest so much money? Either I would fork over the 100,000, I'd become a Series A investor, the main investor, or I'd give in like let's say $10,000. I would be a part of an investment group for Series A, and then we would get a higher stake to basically open the restaurant, and then to op basically it's two invest usually it's two investments. You get a Series A and a Series B. What's up?
I coughed.
Oh, you're good. Series A is what we're going to be seeing now with Complexity, Envious, and people are going to invest into this. And the thing is, they're going to need a Series B because much like this restaurant metaphor. So here, how about this, George? We open the restaurant. Um, Usually that involves like the aesthetics, the logistics, everything else, right? But don't we also need food? Don't we also need a menu? Don't we also need to make sure the operational costs can run?
I mean, a lot of that is yeah, and that's the thing is like when I mean I worked in a restaurant that I actually had to basically rebuild actually at one point, and it was just more of like they were really pretty. Like they spent almost all of their money on the restaurant being beautiful. Like we had a waterfall in the restaurant. We had some of the most like comfortable seating I've ever seen in my life. We had a whole like catering booth that you could like sit in with your office buddies and like sit and eat dinner. Like it was a beautiful restaurant. But they didn't spend money on staff. They didn't spend money on the menu. They didn't spend money on even the quality of the food, you know? And like that's the issue that I have a lot of like this is the meat and potatoes matter, you know? Like who you are hiring matters. Like the chef that we actually had make our menu made the catering menu for the catering company that owned the restaurant.
That's
Catering
baller.
and restaurants don't mix. Like I've learned this for a very long time is like we have a different menu for catering than we do our regular menu online because people who are catering are looking for different food items than per what you would be ordering in the restaurant. They're looking for quick, they're looking to be able to eat at their desk for X amount of time, have a bag of chips and be good. You know, like that's a quick lunch during your
Yeah.
meeting. But when you're coming to a restaurant, you're sitting down, you're eating, you're having a nice meal with family, friends, colleagues, whoever it is, but you're having a good meal. It should be home cooked. It should feel like somebody literally just walked into your kitchen and cooked it for you, you know? And like that's like a lot of the pride that I bring into like both esports and the restaurant industry is that everybody who I've interacted with, like I want them to feel like they're at home, like they can trust somebody or they can actually like come in and like believe that this is true. Comparatively, what we've been talking about with like envious and complexity is like I don't feel it to be true because it's the same owners, it's going to be the same sponsors, if not similar, or ones that are already in the scene that are like, oh, well, they're back. I'll just throw money at it, you know? And we're just gonna, it's gonna be the cycle of life again, you know? I don't remember the name of the thing that you always mention, but the
Are you talking
snake.
about the snake that eats himself?
Yeah.
Or the Ouroboros? Yeah.
Ouroboros. Yeah. Like, it's gonna happen again. And at the same, like, yeah, we're gonna have another peak. I will be honest, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not because at the same time it's going to be the same shit. I know where it's going to go downhill. I know exactly when it's going to go downhill because I've watched it happen already twice, almost 3 times now.
So here's my question to you, and this may leak a little bit of our 4 pillars, which again we don't sell. I don't sell. That's up to good old George here to determine whether or not you want to use his services. He's excellent. Um,
Promote the
how do you go
consultancy.
about how do you go about to a team in an organization? Here's a great example. Mind you, um, shout out. I'm gonna shout out an organization because I'm happy with what League is doing. League's actually promoting teams up. They promoted, I think, several teams from NAC, like the qualifiers, to the NACL, which is like their tier two, and they promoted tier four teams into tier three in North America. What? Like, that's insane to me that they actually committed to creating a system. Well, we also talked about that, didn't we, like 4 months ago, right? But shout out to all those teams. That is that is incredible. But for you, here's my question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
If you're a tier three team and you're getting into the tier two, you've just acquired. Let I think it's the same players. Um, I think most of them. I don't think there's been any major players shifting. I'm
Yeah.
trying to look through the feed right now. I think managers and coaches are being picked up because when you move up, you want good managers and coaches if you don't already have them, or you want to add some more support staff. Um, what is the first thing you do as like a consultant? Let's say let's start as like let's do two. What do you do and you tell an owner when they're going into tier two and they need money to pay players, staff, everything else? What do you do for that? And then as an owner, what would you do in these instances? You have to think as an owner, not as a consultant. What do you do in two separate situations?
Well,
You're
I mean,
consulting.
as a
Yeah, I want to hear.
consultant, I would honestly, I would first look into how much the actual person, the owner themselves, have invested into the team. Because I'm not gonna lie, esports isn't free. You can't do this without spending a dime. And like I mean, I guess I can argue against myself all day and say yes you can, but ideally you can't. The issue is that you're wanting to spend the money in the right places. You mentioned it with bringing in a new tier 2 team, bringing in staff, bringing in extra like coaching, extra management, like anything that is going to bring that team to the next stage, because you've already got promoted once. Where's the next promotion? Because that's where the momentum starts to shift more. You went from tier 3 to tier 2. That's big. That's your breakthrough scene. This is your breakthrough season. This is where we have to capitalize on what is given to you. You know, like this team did really good. They're a tier 2 now. They moved up. How do we make content? How do I promote this? How do I like and that a lot of it, if the owner doesn't have investors directly like you had mentioned, a lot of it is going to rely on that owner. Like how do you throw stuff at this to make it profitable and make it a I like to say proof of concept. Like yes, you got promoted, but how do you build on that momentum? How do you push it forward? Cuz not going to roll by itself. You're pushing it up a hill. You have to push it no matter what. So I put a lot of that on the ownership. Now, coming from ownership personally, like ideally, if I was doing it right, I had some investments into the team. I already am starting to produce some graphics. I'm already starting to produce some videos. I'm already investing in tournaments, which, not gonna lie, shout out fucking team growth. Like, dead ass will always say it because they're doing it right. Like, they are doing every way thing that I think should be done. And that's why I've blindly followed them. Because like he's investing in a tournament for Pokemon Unite. He's picked up some really good talent in the VGC and TCG scene, you know, and people who are available to do content that he can produce, you know. It's becoming a lot more clear that the vision, people are starting to understand and see it. And I think that's where we're at with like grassroots esports, is that as an owner, my main goal would be to provide enough investment so I don't go broke, but I can also create a community that can be built from ground zero. And that's like what the esports community needs right now, is like I want a grassroots team in tier 1. That would be incredible. And I don't want them to lose their character. Like that's the thing, is like a lot of these teams will go into tier 1 and start like losing their character. They'll start changing things. They'll start taking more investments. But honestly, you can tell venture capitalists to shove it. Like you can tell them to shove it. I don't care how much money you're waving in my face. If I'm doing this correctly my way, I'm not going to give up on my morals. And like that's how I would look at it from as an investor standpoint, is that or not investor, an owner standpoint, is that ideally the growth of an organization, the growth of a community is natural. It should be natural. That's why I don't, I mean, I repost stuff from my personal account for somehow we manage, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not promoting it, and I'm not spending money to promote it. I'm not doing anything like that. I bought the check mark just because I felt like it would help with visibility, but that's about it. Like I'm doing all this by myself because I believe in it, and I will spend the money to make it work if I need to. And I'm going to be smart about my investments. I'm not going to spend $100,000 on crap that I don't need. And that's the same with teams. Like they spend $100,000 on crap that they don't need. Spend spend a quarter of that on your staff. Spend a quarter of that on promotional items. Spend a quarter of that on, and leave them another quarter. And like that's how it's supposed to work. And yeah, you're not going to be able to. You're If you're an esports player, you're practically gambling with your life. And like that's a dangerous word to say, but you're gambling your life away because you could win all the tournaments in the next 10 years of your career, or you could lose every single last one. What do you go from there? Excuse my rants.
No, I love this rant. You know why? Because I rant. But no, yes, the answer is yes, I do rant. But this is the passion that I love to see. And mind you, okay, I keep an eye on stuff for a very long time. I've told you, like, I think I've told Clay this. I think I've mentioned this. I'm a little bit of a narcissist when it comes to like calling myself like a clairvoyant for esports because I feel like I can see in the future. Are you ready for the teams that have acquired and gotten their spots for the NACL 2025 North American?
Oh boy.
Are you ready? It's kind of cool, and you'll notice the name. Blue Water, what was this? CCG Esports, Luminosity, Maryville, Polestar, Supernova, and One-Thorpe. Now, here's the interesting thing. Polestar never got their spot. They bought it from Cincinnati Fear. Shout out to all those fucking teams. I would even say Luminosity. Shout out fucking Luminosity. They're sticking with a tier 2 scene.
Yeah.
Who the fuck does that? Mind you, they have a bunch of money, so we can kind of hand wave it, but I still love the fact that they're investing into tier 2. Oh my fucking god, that's amazing. Like an organization that does that. We have 2 collegiate esports teams going into it. Supernova has been a consistent tier 2 supporter organization similar to Panda. Shout out Panda. Like
For
Supernova has
sure.
had
Shout
their
out
issues.
Panda. I feel like Panda has had a few things behind it that's a little bit weird, but anyways.
I mean, of course, every organization does. I'm real. Like even Triumph, I'll say I throw everyone under the bus, dude. I'll even throw Doot Doot, my original org, like our original like ragtag team. We had some really sketchy shit we did too. Like, yeah, it's but it's amazing. Look at all those teams. But here's my question.
Dude,
All
the
right,
fear
All
dropped out.
Star, huh?
Fear dropped out. That's hilarious.
But yeah. See how this is kind of crazy, and you realize who bought their spot too.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
Or
but here's
yeah.
the thing. But yes, yeah, I know there's a joke. We'll get to it later at some point. But shut the fuck up. All
Oh
right.
my
But
god. My brain
shut the
hurts
fuck
after
up.
that one.
But here's the thing. They acquired their spot. Is that worth their money?
I
They didn't qualify. Meaning like here's the thing. They could have qualified. They could have gone through qualifiers to get into
yeah, there's
NACL.
3 spots.
That's a lot of spots. And it
Comparatively,
goes to
that is a
1, 2, and
lot.
3. Yeah, think about it. You just have to win top 3. That doesn't necessarily in the qualifier. You just have to win first, second, or third. It's not like a round robin bullshit. They're not going to do a round robin bullshit. They're too fucking lazy. I'm going to be real. And
Yeah.
regardless, from the information that both Carson and I gave, we knew that Supernova was really good, and we knew Pulse was really good. We were kind of coin flipping between the two, who we wanted to work with.
Yeah, Supernova. I don't know much about Supernova, but the Pulse thing is
They're
hilarious
old
to me.
guard. Yeah, it is funny.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, old guard. So these guys are like been around for a while, right? Oh yeah, 14.
Yep. They've had some controversy. They've done a couple of like weird things. I won't say it because I don't necessarily know all of what's happened or what condition it was. It could have been random people getting involved in random shit, right? Um, like I can't account for some of my managers' shit they've done in the past. I can't. They can't account for some of my weird shit I've done in the past. Um, like you can't hold that over people, or you can't hold that over the organization as a whole. You could probably question the owners as to why they get into controversy, but that should not stop you from supporting what looks like an excellent, long-standing esports org that has amassed enough of a following and respect for the scene. I'm looking at their thing now. NACL, Rainbow Six Siege, Oceania, and play Apex. Those are solid, and Overwatch. They got into Overwatch. Those are solid organizations. Like, or that's solid. I'm looking at the players. I noticed multiple of these players I've either competed against or coached against
So I
for
do
Overwatch.
want to point out one thing. I started digging into a few of the teams here.
Yeah.
Respawned Esports, who is an open qualifier team.
Hmm.
I'm just pointing this
Yeah.
out just because
Yeah.
like the hold on, I just want to double check. Been around since beginning of this year, right? They're already like doing stuff that like not a lot of teams do, streaming their scrims and streaming their over open qualifier runs, putting out content. Like this is a team that is understanding the space and trying, you know? And like
Yeah. Don't tell them all the secrets though.
and that's the thing though is like at least they're trying. Like it may not be perfect and like they may probably have a small following and like have an idea of like what they're supposed to be doing, but it's just like that's an organization that I see at least trying. And like I'm looking at Supernova right now. Like they are actively trying and they've been trying since 2014. Granted, like they don't do enough in my opinion, but they do or they don't do a lot, but they do enough to be able to support the scenes, you know? And that's all really it is like and this is where I like grassroots is that grassroots is always going to hold the line for you no matter what. These teams that are like invested in tier 2 who really care about like the game and not about making the millions of dollars. Yes, that's nice, but these teams are going to last longer, you know? other than like a venture capital money that can be shut down at any given moment just because somebody decided that it wasn't worth their time.
That's why I'm very excited about this. Like, I think they're learning, and maybe they all should be shouting out. What's the European team with Reckless on it? I'm trying to remember. El Ratones. Um, that's an EU team playing in tier two North European leagues with ex-professional players, streamers, and content creators on it, and they're winning. They're winning, and they're making content. They stream every scrim. They make like they're supporting each other. The coach is amazing. Reckless, um, probably one of the best icons for mental health um, in the esports community as it stands. Like he came out like very publicly with his autism diagnosis. He came out with I think other like social anxiety disorders. Like we need more of those teams, and I'm glad it's coming to North America. And mind you, I just don't want them to do the meat puppet thing, where it's a lot of talk, but not actual real shit going behind it. Because they do spend a lot of time streaming. They do spend a lot of time scrimming. They spend a lot of time winning or losing, right? But all during that time, they're learning. My greatest fear is because I did see a post from all these teams at some level was very similar to the complexity post or the envy where it's like, hey, we're looking for sponsors. Like that's cool, but you gotta win. You gotta make content. You gotta do these things. It doesn't matter if you bought a spot from someone for in the eyes of what's the team? Fuck. Polestar. Like you can't just buy a spot and then hope to God someone will sponsor you.
Mm.
And then vice versa, like Luminosity, you can't just fucking drop into a scene and hope that your name will carry you enough to do what you want to do? Question mark.
I mean, they directly invested into a tier two team. Like this isn't even like conference, you know?
Yeah,
And which that's a good sign. But the you're right, Meat Puppet, they could literally just use their name and be like, well, we're Luminosity, you know? And like hopefully what I'm
and
saying
then what?
a lot of it is they're leaning on that team a lot, but even then, like what are they gonna pull? Like what is gonna make this team the reason why they did it? Like why did they do it?
Yeah,
In which yeah,
I,
did they? Now I'm curious. Did this? Who was this team?
which one?
Luminosities. Like who were they before?
Yeah, let me go back through and see if I can find them.
Is this Shopify's team?
Oh my god, if it's Shopify's team, it's cooked.
I think it is. No, one player from Dig,
2022. Let me see.
one player from Liquid, and one player
Let me
from
see.
Disguised.
Gaming. I'm gonna look at their Twitter to see what it was.
Cause yeah, like I'm already looking at these players and they're already notable names, obviously. Yeah. Oh, one of them's loaned from Shopify Rebellion.
So I bet they were just picked apart team. They were a picked apart team then.
Yeah. And
I mean,
that's
that's not bad.
where was Shopify before?
What do you mean?
Was Shopify like a big team? I don't know anything
I
about
think they
League.
were. Yeah, so okay, Shopify reinvigorated LCS by investing into the tier 2 team.
Got it.
Like, but the problem is Disguise, much like Disguised and Ludwig and what was the other Moist Critical, like they're
Yeah.
all gonna merge. I'm gonna be honest, like I'll eat crow if it goes differently, but I know Shopify and um was it Moist? Yeah, they combined together, but I would not doubt if Disguise joins them. Or maybe it was Disguised X Rebellion, something like that. I would not be surprised if they all merge.
All those streamer
Because,
organizations with Shopify.
yeah, because it just isn't making money. Like Disguised is losing a bunch of money. Like Disguised Host is losing
Yeah.
his ass in esports. Like he isn't winning. You can't just show up. You can't just make content. You can't be just doing these things. You need to be doing everything all at once. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you got to be doing it. And that's my greatest fear is like, again, how do you create a legacy? Where are the legacy holders? Who's holding the torch? Is it you, George? Are you holding the torch? I don't know where the fucking
God,
torch is.
fucking hope so. I'm trying, man. And that's the other thing. Is like we're all trying. And like I'm gonna roll into like a similar subject but a different subject. What about the upcoming
I want to hear it.
legends? What
Which one?
about the upcoming
Oh,
legends? What about them? Like
yeah.
that yeah, I'm looking at Polestar, I'm looking at Supernova, I'm looking at Blue Water, I'm looking at CGC, and then I'm looking at Luminosity. Like a lot of these players haven't had their chance. And if they had, they aren't there anymore. And like how do and excuse me for calling your ass out, but how the hell do I get you out of your fucking seat so that I can give this young gun a chance?
That's the answer, really. And let me say it very plainly and honestly. This is gonna make me sound very big-headed. I'm not in esports anymore, really. You're the next generation. You're the one that has all my notes and my like. We There's an ongoing joke within our group of my notebook or my notepad. These guys have done the same shit. Like they already might have already done it before, but now it's instilled into them. Like just that basic thing has told me enough that you guys have the torch and you can run with it. I guess I fear that the wrong people are being given the wrong notes at the wrong time, and that's going to be really bad. But my hope is maybe the right people are getting at the right notes and maybe just the wrong time right now. And that's not to you. I mean more like the Maryvilles, the Winthorpes, because those are two collegiate teams that have qualified for the NACL.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they should be there. I think they should be working on collegiate. I think they should be working on the NCAA. I think they should be working on those things because there's legislation that states that if the NCAA just snaps their fingers, and we talked about this before, and said, "Hey guys, we have a brand new Mountain West for all the West Coast teams. We have the Pac 24 for all the Central like teams or the Midwest teams, and then we have the Division 12 for the 12 East Coast teams." Maryville and Winthrop could not join any of those
Because they're a
because
pro
they're
team.
considered a part of a professional league,
Yeah.
and they would be banned out of it, I think, for 5 years or something like that,
And they're
minimum. And that's
risking it
not the
all.
players. And here's the yeah, exactly. And the worst part is the players wouldn't be allowed to join, and the program wouldn't be able to join for like 5 years because they would need to clear like any sort of baggage. And mind you, this is what like we've been working on. Like George, myself, shout out to Clay and Young Gun, Carson. Like we worked on this. There was so much infrastructuring that needed to be in place that just we couldn't do. Like we needed other people to have the infrastructure in place. And this is going to sound really bad, but I think Maryville's greedy. I think Winthorpe is greedy. I think what's the other big big um
Fucking Buckeyes, right?
Ohio State,
Yeah.
them, yeah, like um it's
Even
just
Purdue as well. I'll even throw them in the fucking fire.
yeah.
Purdue's been promoting the shit out of their esports stuff.
I mean, if I'm looking through, let's see. Okay, let me do a little look see. Boise State, um, Maryville, Ohio State, Winthorpe's there. Even Drexel, I worked with Drexel for a hot minute, just advising, like offhandedly with them. I'm glad they're not involved in anything because it would be extremely embarrassing. Like, I'm gonna be real, it just wouldn't work.
I mean, I'm just and like that's the thing though is like all of these colleges are basically ruining the path to pro, like for being this way because you're right. The NCAA, I'm not going to lie, even like in the work that you and I were doing and like Clay and Carson is they were the scariest motherfuckers I could think of. I wasn't scared of any investor. I wasn't scared of any sponsorship. I wasn't scared of any broker, like none of that. The people I was genuinely scared of was the NCAA because you never knew when they were going to snap. And that was the issue is like I couldn't bring any of these players into a professional level because they're still in the position that they're in. And because of that position and because of the overlaying government body that can literally snap at any given moment, there was nothing like the path to pro became blurrier. And that's where a lot of my
Harrisburg,
ideas were coming. What'd you say?
Harrisburg. Sorry, that was the other one.
Oh. But yeah, I just
Sorry,
like it's
my
becoming blurred. Like that's my one thing. And like, I mean, I'm even trying to think. I know a lot of Fortnite pros were originally streamers, but
yep.
I'm even trying to think like how else can somebody what's the other path to pro? Because other than that, it's near impossible. Cuz I'm even working with a Dota 2 team right now and like I encouraged new players and I was like, "Have you seen anybody in your pubs recently that like is really good?" But everybody's like, I mean, I focus on my own game. I understand that, but we're in an industry where it's impossible to become pro. So let's get that prodigy out of pubs. Like there's got to be one of them floating around that doesn't stream, that doesn't do any type of marketing or doesn't do anything like that. Why are we not investing in, I don't know, somebody like me, a consultant, to just sit in games that are high level and be like, hey, this kid's good. Like, let's make a note. If I see him again, let's make a note of him. Because there's no other path to pro. And especially with the NCAA like lingering over everybody, it's all of these organizations. I'm trying to think of like Winthrop and what's the other one that we were just talking about?
Maryville,
Maryville.
uh,
They're the only
Harrisburg.
ones. Like, who's in a professional setting is my main question. Like, out of all of those, Winthrop, Maryville, and I'm sure a few other ones.
Yeah,
And that's the thing is like they are literally risking everything for a little bit of clout. Is that really what we're risking everything for?
pretty much.
That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. And I feel bad, genuinely. Like, I don't think that these players are no. I don't think they're thinking about it. I don't think that they realize that they are literally risking their careers, which is sad. Like that's just sad to me because that's what you're planning on using to support the rest of your life and you've already fucked it. Or at least your organization's already fucked it for you. Do you think these players know?
No, I can tell you they don't because most colleges don't actually talk about the fine print. And mind you, here's the thing, like there are good ones out there. And mind you, we'll probably get the like I just got a message back from our the guy I was talking about before in the CSU system, the
Mm-hmm.
California State system. Hopefully we'll be able to bring him on. I think he gets it. I think he understands it because he does speak very highly of what his system is and how he localizes it versus making it more than what it's showing. And mind you, like the other part is you do have to kind of peacock and be like, yeah, we won 17 championships. You do have to be like, yeah, we're kind of a big deal. But I think it's enough of a win, to be honest. And I shouldn't undercut him even before he's on. But that's something to be proud of. But you don't need to really hold up the 17 trophies because I also look at the equivalent competition that you're competing with or against. If if you're a high school baseball team that's let's say I'm going let's say you're a scout for the New York Yankees, and I got a high school guy, and I'm like, yeah, he's hit like 100 home runs this season. It's kind of crazy. We've been playing in this private league with our team, and then you go, oh well, who you been competing against? And you look at the roster, and it's like 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds against like nearly 18-year-old adults. You probably would look at me a little bit weird,
Here's I'm gonna
right?
interject a little bit here, just because like I have some opinions here, because like I'm gonna contradict you a little bit. You don't need those 17 trophies. I'm gonna be honest, you don't, because if you think about it in a larger perspective, the NCAA is a supporting governing body for all collegiate sports, right? They bring in sponsorships, they bring in televised broadcasting, they bring in like everything that a league or a team would need. If I were the NCAA or if I was consulting with them, I would look at what are you doing to make these players better? What is your facilities? What is your staff? What is your training regimen? What is, and that's how you promote a healthier growth. All these teams that are winning championships and trophies right now, I'm sorry, but they're not going to be able to compete for the next 5 years. They're not. They're going to get in trouble no matter what. They're probably going to get a fine. And even with that fine, it's going to lower the amount of money that they're putting into their program. And that's just going to hurt the scene no matter what. Yes, they're going to put this in place, but a lot of these like top teams, like they obviously earn their spot in the LACS or whatever the hell it is. What is it?
Yeah, whatever it is.
NACL. They earn their spot, but they're going to get a slap and it's going to become worse and go downhill from there, you know? Or they're going to get banned altogether. And that's where I'm looking at organizations, or at least these colleges, that are instead supporting their players. Yes, you can play, and even then there's no sanctioned tournament, so it's an issue, but you can play in scrims and you can show a lot more in depth, because why would you risk a I'm calling them kids because I know they're still in college, but why would you ruin a kid's life? Why would you take that risk? And like that's what I'm like worried about, is like nobody's being open and honest and truthful about genuinely what could happen to them. Yeah, they're at playing at the top level right now, but they get dropped by their program, they get dropped by their sponsorships, they get dropped by everything because they can't play. And then at the same time, they lost their college scholarship and they lost all of their program. Where are they going to go from there? They're going to go to a professional organization? No, they still got to go through school. They still have a life. They went to that college for a reason. You know, all of them are looking for degrees in something. And that one player or that team that is now singled out and no longer eligible to play in that program isn't going to be able to go to that program at all. That program is going to lose, obviously, 5 of their best players, and they're going to lose a lot of faith and trust from the community. So build up your programs. Build up scrims. Like, yes, you could play against professional teams in a scrim setting because that is good practice. But no matter what, if you are jeopardizing children's or kids' lives, or at least their education, I don't stand by that. I don't. I can't. I didn't go to college. Like, I went to college for a year, figured out I didn't want it, and I dropped out because that's just the way I felt. But a lot of these people spend time, money, and their hard lives to get through it. And like that's not fair to them just because they wanted to play video games. And I'm going to add one last thing just cuz, but
Yeah,
it also gives people like us a sense of place and purpose finally. I went to college, I was part of the robotics team. I went to high school as part of the robotics team. Like that was my sense of place and purpose within school. And a lot of other people don't have the ability to be as social or as interactive or can build robots like myself. So it gives people another outlet within school that they can be themselves. I remember being scared to death admitting that I loved Pokemon. Now I flaunt it everywhere I can go because I don't care anymore. I'm not in high school. I don't have to hide it anymore. But a lot of these kids go through shit because they can't express themselves. This is another avenue of expression. They should be clubs before their programs. They should be programs after, or they should be professional programs after we get some support or some at least rules, because there's no rules to this right now. It's a wasteland. I have strong opinions.
No, but it's good. Like, this is why we want to have industry people on. And mind you, like, as we get further into this, like, I think it will be difficult, the stuff that we're saying, but the reality is there isn't a space that is, God, I'm gonna say it, isn't safe because it is dangerous. It jeopardizes your job. It jeopardizes your current status. It brings into question your loyalty and your fealty. Because let's be honest, like every single thing we've said so far is extremely questionable as to why people would even want to talk to us, right? We've now shit on the collegiate scene, so why would any collegiate coach, manager, staffer want to talk to us? We basically said that their jobs are not secure. They're feeding the beast of like a broken system. We've now shit on two different teams, Nova and Pulse, and maybe even gave like an affirmation to Cincinnati Fear for selling their spot off. But like, why would Cincinnati Fear like? Here's the thing: why would Fear want to talk to us? Because they're free and clear, right? We basically absolve them of anything. They don't need to talk to us. Why would Pulse want to talk to us? Because we just said that they burned money and maybe they'll do something. Maybe. And Supernova, we know that they have like a storied history, but like, will that be one that repeats the good stuff, or will it be the one that repeats questionable actions that they've done? But we are so passionate, I think, that the difference is the guardrails are up, but there is a 100-foot cliff on the other side. So if you do want to run at it at 100 miles an hour and want to go off that cliff, go for it. Like, we're down there, we're waving high down there.
I
Um,
and but here's the thing is like, and this is why I love doing this the way we do it, is because I genuinely like, I'm already at the bottom of the cliff. We're already there. You know? There is
yeah,
literally nowhere else other than digging our hands into the side of that cliff and climbing up. Yes, I'm going to say some controversial shit, but it's because I'm fucking passionate about the industry. It's because I am sick and tired of just sitting by and watching it, because that's all I've been able to do within this industry is sit and watch and wait and wait. And it's not working. It's not, I'm not helping anybody. I'm not doing anything about it. Yes, I am working with organizations. Yes, I'm working with grassroots. Yes, I'm working with teams, but it doesn't matter because the old guard and the 1%, I'm going to use that fucking word because why not, has made it so difficult for anybody to be able to break in and fix it. And like, I'm praying that Shopify is doing the right thing with Ludwig and Critical, and hopefully Disguised Toast goes on board because that would be
I
good.
don't know what the amalgamation is. Well, I'll say it on the record. I don't know what the amalgamation is
Yeah.
currently. I know there is one.
But and that's what I'm saying though, is like, as long as those three, like, if that's what they do and they decide to try and adjust the industry and fix it, I pray that it's in a good direction because I have not been able to do it. But at the same time, I'm sitting here telling everybody my bullshit and I'm telling everybody my controversial thoughts because I firmly believe that they're not wrong. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think if I thought I was wrong. And like, I'm open to criticism. I'm open to like anybody telling me that I'm wrong, but I promise you I'm hard-headed. I will fight tooth and nail and tell you why I'm right and admit when I am wrong finally. And that's just my pride getting in the way sometimes. But at the same time, like, this industry, I care too much about it. I spent 10 years with it. You've spent 10 years with it. We both spent a large decade of our lives on this. And we've just been watching it like slowly dwindle. And we're here to talk about the reasons why so that we can hopefully make some sort of impact. And that's like my main goal with it, is just I want to make an impact. Like, I want to make a lasting difference because like I give a shit. I give too much of a shit, you know?
And maybe this is like a good jumping off point, right? I think this is maybe an excellent jumping off. We'll see. I'll say good. And how we interpersonally work within this industry and foster these environments that are good, because the reality is when I first started, and maybe when you started too, having bench players similar to like basketball, like load management. Yeah, if you didn't have your core five, your core six, your core four constantly playing, and you rotated people in and out, there was always questions of whether or not it was going to be sustainable. Like whether or not a said player, like if you had like for the Call of Duty fans, if you had two ARs and two SMGs, if it's like a four, like if you have an extra guy that can flex between the two, or girl or NB, if you had someone that could flex, uh, more than likely they would never see enough play time. At the same time, if they were being brought in, there was questions of whether or not the reliability of the main, sub guy or the main AR guy or person was even viable. Because if you're going to sub them out, like for someone who's, they have to be like strong on both, not perfect, but strong enough to hold their own. Like I think Collegiate's doing it right. I'll give them props for that. I'll give them their flowers for that, their roses. But like any sort of movement is just been considered toxic or like questionable as to where the direction the organization is heading to. Like you can have several managers and several coaches, but if you have several ADCs or several DPS, if you have several supports, if you have, you're going to get a big question mark. Like we had, like I think you guys had, you had a guy, you guys had a wing, a kid in the wing for Pokemon Unite, right?
Yeah, we had somebody we were waiting to turn 18.
I mean, that's what made me interested in your roster. The fact that you had a kid that was coming up and that people in the whole team respected, at
Oh,
least from
sorry.
the
I thought you were
outside.
talking about team growth. Yeah, with the AE. No, you're talking
Oh,
about alter ego. Sorry, we had
oh,
a.
both. No, and here's the thing, both of them. That's amazing, right? You're building up that infrastructure. You understand what that infrastructure is.
Yeah, I mean,
Either one, like alter ego and team growth.
yeah. Well, and even like the game, like Pokemon Unite has supported a substitute because they understand like life gets in the way. And I'm not gonna lie, Pokemon Unite doesn't pay off very much, but I digress.
Yeah.
The the thing is like, and I honestly relate it to like mental stability and taking a break and like being yourself. I don't like the fact that I have a player like who works for 12 hours and then gets on the game. You know, like that's going to burn you out. You're going to be tired for work. You're going to be miserable the next time we scrim. Like if it ends on a bad note, it's going to be horrible note, you know? And like take your night. We'll let the six player play and like yes, it's questionable because everybody wants to see the stars. Like there's a team in basketball. Lakers just played them. Fucking I can't think of it. I want to say it's the Stars.
The Spurs? Are you talking about the Spurs?
No. Oh God, hold on.
Who the Lakers? You're talking about LA Lakers, who they play.
Yeah, I'm pulling up their last games. They played. Who was I watching? Was it the Warriors? I think it was the Warriors. It was the Warriors or the Clippers. It was one of those teams that doesn't sub out their players and lets their main players play out the whole game, no matter what. I actually think it might have been the 76ers.
Ah, okay.
Whoever it was, the manager doesn't sub out his players and just lets his stars play the whole game, and like that doesn't work because you have what? How many allowed on a bench? Four, five?
I can't tell you off the top of my head right now.
But either way, like you're allowed to have people on the bench for a reason. People get injured, people get mentally exhausted, people get physically exhausted. Like there's a reason why teams have more players. Like yeah, it doesn't have to be as big as a football team that has two backups per position, you know? But at least have somebody who can hop in for a mental break. Hell, have two of them. Honestly, have one for carry, one for support. You know, and it won't be perfect, but in the long run, a lot of these teams that are rested and are well adjusted to how the system works will do a lot better. My team did a lot better because they weren't stressed. They literally brought me on because they were stressed out about scheduling and trying to find sponsors. That was the only reason I came on. And then like that's all I am for a manager is like that's try what I try to do. And nobody understands like that background work is insane. And like it's a lot of work. Yeah, I'm sure you've had nights where you were up till 4 a.m. trying to find the next big thing, you know? Excuse
There was a lot of nights like that.
me. Sure, recently too, especially with a lot of our projects too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that where those were sleepless nights trying to figure out how to unfuck things.
I mean, I was Charlie Day from Sunny in Philadelphia, literally pointing at the fucking board the whole time, and
It all
Pepe
relates.
Sylvia.
It all
It all
relates.
relates. Meanwhile, we've been fired for the last 2 weeks, but no, it's
I don't know. I just the substitute thing, like it's because we're toxic as an audience. That's really
yeah.
it.
But I guess that's the thing, right? Is like kind of going back to what we were talking about before is leaving a legacy. Like there is no like I think the cool thing that you did with Alter Ego is you had some legacy guys with some new blood. And you've been talking about team growth and you have some legacy guys with like this newbie that's coming up.
Mm.
There will be a time that comes to every single person, and mind you, like I equate it to similar to death in the sense like the Reaper always comes for you, right? Like my legacy, like I'm some type of like ghoul or ghost or some fucking zombie because like I do come back. And mind you, like a lot of these people, like they don't when they talk about taking a break, they don't actually take a break. Like they're well connected into the scene. They're constantly talking to players and staff members. I'm not. I'll just show up out of fucking nowhere. I am literally like haunting the house of esports and like on some projects where it's like I know enough people that I can reach out to and figure some shit out if I want to get back into it or something's happening. But I guess I just don't want to haunt the house anymore. I think that's the key. I've gotten to the point now with you being there, I am safe enough to now just rest my soul. But I don't know if there's enough players, like elder players, that can teach the young guys or are willing to teach them how to lose, how to win, how to listen to a coach, how to even listen to a manager, how to get onto a schedule. Like, there just isn't, just from what I've seen.
And well, and like you can go additional into here is that I mean I understand services cost money and that's the thing, but where are the legends or like at least the veterans that didn't amount to a lot but have a lot of knowledge that are willing to teach this base, you know? Because like they didn't leave a legacy, but they're still in the scene. Why? Like I get your friends are here, but why are you still trying to compete? Why are you still like I hate using the term washed, but why are you washed and still trying? You know? And like
Yeah.
that's the issue I'm having is that it's very rare that you find people willing to sit there and teach and introduce others to what is something that you are passionate about because I mean, I've somehow brainwashed my wife to love Pokemon, you know? But that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. And like that's the thing is like you have to walking as an individual yourself. Like this is all about an individual is that you need to be open and willing to learn from these people otherwise you're going to be the same, you know? Like you're going to try but it's not going to work. And like how do you change that narrative? And like I think that's the big question is like what can you even do to change that narrative? And like I mean coaches offer their services for like money and stuff like that, but what 17-year-old kid has $200 for a whole coaching session for a day?
Well, I may even interject by saying, let's be real, how many coaches genuinely have enough experience to be asking for payment?
True, because anybody could
That
sign up.
that is also the legacy I've mentioned before. Onassis, like, and I'm leaking his doxed his real name.
I
Um,
think you already did, dog.
he taught. He doesn't want to talk to me anyway because I touch esports. He doesn't like that. I'm cursed. Um, he created a legacy in the fact that he knew he wasn't going to last in the scene forever. So he gave Sword and I an opportunity. He taught both of us. I continued to teach Mayo as a coach. I taught you. Like I you came along with me on this weird ass journey. You weren't like you weren't a little protege. You weren't anything else. Like you were essentially like we were
You've
on a
always
mission to
seen
go
me as
to
an
the.
equal, honestly. Like no matter what, I feel like either when I feel like you and I actually had this conversation, I think in private. You've always respected me and treated me as an equal. Because like at first you did call me like a mentee and stuff like that, but then I think after a few more conversations you realized it was like, oh shit, this kid actually might know his shit, you know.
Yeah,
So it was definitely like I think there was a point where you realized that there was an equilibrium between the both of us. Granted, we both came from very different, or not very different, but from different backgrounds in esports, but we've both learned how to navigate it, you know, in our own ways. But I will amount a lot of my like knowledge to what you have shown me because I'm not going to lie. Throughout my experiences, I haven't developed those properties or those I guess I'm going to call them building blocks for how to navigate it, but I've also gone the other direction of learning how to market teams, how to manage people, how to, you know, like be able to navigate from a tier 3 perspective, even tier 4, 5, you know? And
yeah.
like that's kind of where I think we met in the middle. It was like, okay, he knows a lot about this, I know a lot about this, and then we've kind of shared a lot of our information and experiences with one another. And that's where this kind of was born is that you and I we mesh well and we are equals in this industry to the point of you have information, I have information, let's share it, you know?
I think maybe the best distinction is here it is. Are you ready? And this is gonna be very conceited of me. I'm the guy that got hired on at Big Lots before it closed down. I know some people don't even know what the fuck a Big Lots
Oh
is.
my
It was
god,
like a
I miss Big
Kmart.
Lots.
I got hired a year ago. Like this is an imaginary analogy. I got hired a year ago, and because no one wanted to fucking work, and I put in the minimum amount of time to really do it, and kind of started to enjoy my job after a while, they promoted me immediately to manager and like head of staff or whatever other bullshit. Right? I did the right things at the right time. You literally got hired a year later, so I don't really have realistically a lot of time on top of you. But what I do have is seeing the significant change from when it was a shithole to now somewhat of a functioning company and somewhat of a different environment. Because the way the scenes changed from 2013 to 2016, you could say even 2015, there was a big fucking jump. It
Mhm.
went from, oh, you could make like $100 from a tournament to you're winning hundreds of thousands of dollars in tournament earnings. And that's maybe not even counting like the big orgs that are paying salary or you have a team house. Like in that short a period of time, like yes, Optic had houses, FaZe had houses, but they also were like bank run, like they were bankrolled. Like like it wasn't real. I'll say it that way. They had big investors to be able to do things. And mind you, that is a path. That is a path you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
But I think, and not to discount you, but you caught it as soon as it was getting to that point where it still was slog. It was still a fucking slog. But the reality was then you had multi-million dollar tournaments. You had $100,000 tournaments. You had prospect contracts kind of being handed to you. When I was given my contract, that was a fucking rarity. We had pro teams we were screaming against in Dirty Bomb that had no fucking contracts. They were getting fucking reamed, and mind you, we also got screwed over. But mind you, it wasn't because of the org; it was because of changing management of the game that we were literally playing.
Chickens. Look at all
It
those chickens.
don't say it. The fact that you
Oh.
know that story still is amazing. Like, oh god, not the chickens.
The
And
fucking
for reference,
chickens.
a Chinese chicken company bought Nexon's game of Dirty Bomb and ran it into the ground. Ripped my contract. I could have become a pro. I wouldn't have. I'm gonna be real. I wouldn't have. I had too much of
Aw,
an ego at
Sam, you
that time.
gave me another freaking old man in a crutch chair freaking moment, dude. I
More
could have been
content. Let's
pro.
go.
I could have been pro. I never, honestly, and that's my thing is like, you were also so close to that professional standard. I was a fucking crusader, which is the lowest rank you can get in Dota 2, by the way, thinking that he could win the qualifiers for the International 2015. And that's when I quickly realized, after I got my shit kicked in round one, that I needed to take a management standpoint. And like since then, I hit the ground running with what it is, you know. But I did come in that boom period where it was went from hundreds of dollars to millions of dollars, you know, or $100,000, you know,
Well,
and like
let me give you.
that was
Let me give you
attractive.
some. Yeah. Well, let me give you some like credit here. Where we were starting was in like the basement, literally and metaphorically. You were maybe like half the flight up the stairs in the basement and getting out of the basement, essentially. We started in the basement. You still were stuck with us in the basement when you joined us, like in when you started.
Yeah,
But and I mean that as like a general
nah,
us.
you're good. I ain't
You're never
offended,
on our
dog.
roster for
I'm about to
clarity.
go grab another
But
beer in a minute here. Damn it.
oh hell yeah. But yeah, no that. But again, I like giving people their credit where credit is due. Like you still fought through all that. Like I was told by my coach, like who called me a little shit that I was self-absorbed, that I was self-centered, that I could not be a IGL, and I eventually became our IGL because he kicked my ass into shape. Just to tell me when we got our contracts revoked, and mind you, it wasn't because of the org, love them to death. Um, when we got them revoked, he just told me you're not going to be good enough to join another esports team. Just become a coach or a manager.
You know,
Have
dude,
your mentor tell you you are dog shit at what you do. Just go into management.
and dude, honestly, the amount of times that shit like that has actually happened to me, not even in esports, like in personal life. Like well, what I talk about when I dropped out of college, right? My professor actually pulled me aside. I actually failed the class, and he didn't want to see me again because he thought I was awful at programming. So he gave me a passing grade. Yeah, and that like I dropped out the next year. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. And a second time I have 2 nickels. It's not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice, right? Dr. Doofenshmirtz reference. I used to be an artist. Like I used to draw. I had sketchbooks upon sketchbooks, and then I got into my high school art class, and my teacher just crushed my fucking dreams. She gave me D's on everything. Like I didn't even get anything higher, and I just barely passed the class just because I was passing in my stuff. But my God, like comparatively, like I was comparing myself to others, and like I was struggling with that, and just the fact that somebody was like, "Yeah, you like this is proof that you can't do it," was rough. And the fact that I got pushed through my 1 year in college was rough too. Fucking Dr.
But
Doofenshmirtz. I don't know why that popped in my head.
no, but the thing is, like, I hate the like, I hate, but I also love my coach that did that for me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. I just connected with my ex, like a long time, my first girlfriend, a lot of shit. And I think about points in time that completely changed and pivot one point in time. She legit told me that like one of my friends uh said that I was way too ugly to be with her and that she should be with him. Had she had told me then, I was like a year and a half later going to go into an apartment with him and some two other friends they were dating. Um, like we were all going to get in, like a house together. And we were friends pretty much all through high school, out of college and everything else. Like I didn't go to college with them, but I was going to go get that house with them.
Yeah,
Imagine how if that was said, I probably wouldn't have played League. I probably wouldn't have gotten into esports. I wouldn't have gotten into gaming. I really wouldn't have pushed any harder. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have been getting in and working with the tribes. I wouldn't be doing these things. It's these points in time that are extremely pivotal, right? If it wasn't for her holding her tongue there, which I appreciate that, then I wouldn't have tried out for the roster that I did or joined the roster that I did. Like I trialed and I was good enough. Then I wouldn't have gotten essentially like almost kicked off the team multiple times for my attitude, improved as a person, met you, or gone and through all the Overwatch bullshit, all the yada yada yada, and
yeah,
then I would have met you because of it, right?
yeah,
Those are moments that I look at and I can appreciate the hurt, right? Even now, I can appreciate the hurt being told that because although I'm in a like rough shape on a daily basis, and I think everyone deals with a lot of shit, and it's underappreciated. All the people that support you, like shout out to you, George. We were talking about like we literally hopped on because we had notes ready to go and checking in on each other.
yeah. I
But this is
mean,
like the authenticity.
that's how we
Oh,
start too. Like I like check. I like. I mean, I keep saying it. And I think I've said it twice now. Is I'm always checking in on you. Like I'm always trying to make sure. Like I respect our friendship a lot. Like you've helped me gain a lot of confidence more than like I had before with a lot of the stuff that I do because I feel, and I think I've honestly said this directly to you. If I haven't, time for a touchy feely moment. You have validated me more than, I mean, a lot of people in this industry. Like I have been able to do a lot of shit with mm, just bare bones knowledge and like some confidence behind me and like actually promote something that I love and something that I really want to do. And I was able to do this. I don't stream. Like, I don't really personalize myself. I barely tweet. Like, I try to give myself a little bit of platform to work with. But even then, like, I don't know. There would have been nobody else that I would think to ask. This was like a silly idea that I had like 3 years ago. And I was like, you know what? Sam has been like this godsend to me. And like, I praise you, my friend. That it's just been like I don't know. I feel like I'm on cloud nine, low key.
well, I think that's where the industry, like, okay, I think that's where the industry lacks. is mutual admiration and then respect. You can have admiration towards someone, and it can be mutual back in an infrastructure that isn't necessarily like you can admire someone who is in a lower position too, which I don't think is really like I think there is the facade of appreciating someone's hard work of getting through like the qualifiers for League of Legends or what I like for Dirty Bomb when we were going through all those scrims or even like the Apex stuff, right? They fight day in and day out to try and get their spots, but realistically, like they're not on the same level as the pros.
No.
So there's a respect from the pros to the AMs, the amateurs. Well, that shouldn't be really said. T2, T1,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's actually that support system. I don't
Even
think they
then,
actually do much.
I'm gonna interrupt. Just sorry. I just even
Yeah.
then,
No,
like,
I want you to.
there's no interaction. Like the interaction is either come back to college and play, or it's come up to professional and play. There is no just general conversation. There is no like. It's always somebody looking for something, and like you have done well at reaching out to a few people that I'm not gonna lie, I know you have been nervous about, and
Yeah.
like that is bravery on its own.
It is and it isn't. It is on its face, but it isn't for the fact that it shouldn't be because I made a decision to support what my team wanted. Yes, it hurt a player, but it wasn't necessarily it was what was best for the team at the time. It wasn't what was best for the team overall, I can tell you that. It was a major fuck up, but at the time it made sense. And that's the difficult part to talk to people about because I think that if I were to sit down with people, they'd understand that position and I would apologize for sort of the way I handled it, but I probably would have to do it over again. If I had to go into the past with all the knowledge that I had or do have now, I probably would have to do it over again. Like even if I had hindsight. That's the tough part, personally. So,
Yeah, and even then, like I honestly, I don't really look on my past at all. Like, I do appreciate my past and I do respect it. My thing with my past is that, I mean, for one, it's fucked up. I really like, I do things to forget and do things, not even to forget, that's a bad way to put it, because that's not like mentally healthy, but I do things to push myself forward because I would much rather live in a future where I did something than in the past where I did nothing or I can't do anything about it, you know? And like, take those words to your grave because that can empower you so much. And I'm not gonna lie, it's empowered me a lot to like, I'm not the same person I was like 10 years ago. I'm not gonna lie. I've had a controversy once about just like an argument about money, and like I got angry. Like I used to get super angry about things because I really was passionate about. I wanted my players to get paid for fuck's sake. And like I needed to change. And like throughout life I've grown up, like learned how to change and learned how to be a little bit different of a person, but I've never like given up on who I was, and I don't regret anything that I've done because I personally, one, I'm a good little boy. I like to be good. I don't like to do bad things. But at the same time, like you leave a legacy with every individual you meet, whether that's good or bad is really up to you. You know, I could talk to a random stranger on the side of the street and like they might remember me for a day, but that's a legacy you left on them. That's something you left on them for a day. And like interacting with people at the restaurant. Like I have bad experiences with people all the time. But then I also have my small group of regulars who come in and make the day well and like always want to talk to me actively. And then I've got my friends in the esports community who reach out constantly, or people I'm working with, like they are open and communicative, and I really like surrounding myself with individuals who output that positivity towards a or output a little bit of constructive positivity is a good way to put it. And like my relationship with you is like I mean, you took me under your wing to an extent and was able to I don't know, just like build me up a little bit more. Like I wouldn't have thought of being a consultant until after our conversations before, you know? You've given me building blocks to help, and like I've been trying to reciprocate and being like a good friend. Like that's really all I've got for you, you know? But like I know you appreciate it because you reciprocate back. And it's like I have a friend, my friend Kyle of 8 years, like dudes hosted a quick Super Bowl party because we had nowhere else to go tonight. You know, the bars were gonna be full. We were gonna be crowded, overwhelmed. Like I was not gonna have it. And he was like, "Well, just come over to my house." And he bought like freezer items. He bought like chips and dip, and like he went out and bought everything and didn't charge us a dime for it. You know, and I know damn well that I'm gonna take him freaking bowling one of these days soon, and I'm gonna pay for his drinks and his bowling. You know, and that's like that's the relationship that I carry along with a lot of the people that I with. It's you don't think about the transaction, you just think about the time spent. And like these 2 hours, 2.5 hours that I spend with you every Sunday at 10 o'clock, join us at Podcast SWM. Um, it's valuable time to me. Like I love this time that we have together. You know, even if it's like I'm screaming into a mic into the void, I don't care. Like I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I'm gonna be like inner white girl here, right?
I I'm gonna wrap this into a topic kind of halfway. I I love and appreciate is just interpersonal connection is so difficult and it's so delicate because one wrong move and whatever trust you built, whatever system you've talked about, whatever thing that is going on, it can easily fracture and sometimes it breaks. And that is, I think, really difficult because bringing it to esports, I think immediately negatively, like my first immediate negative thought out of everything. And it's crazy to think about it this way. I still go back to losing by point 0.1 or point 0.1 meters in Overwatch against what would become Triumph. And we had that was our map. We never lost. That was our first loss in like 45 games in that season on Gibraltar in Overwatch 1. We held most teams underneath Car Wash. Most people probably don't know where that is or probably don't know it. It still lives in my nightmares and it is in infamy in my time. And I remember my players losing and we lost our spot to move up. And nothing was really said. One by one, they kind of just left. And I remember talking to our support, who was our IGL, and I had a very long conversation with him, being like, I don't know what we're doing from here, because I was handed the reins halfway through the season from our lead coach, because I was just there to help advise as mental health, because I wanted to take kind of a back seat. And he handed me the reins to the Discord because he asked me if I wanted to continue, and I said, yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to join back, and he just straight up said, I don't think anyone wants to come back.
Off of one loss, which is like that's uh, that had to have been like something else building up, you know.
I think we were 11, and we would have gone 12 and 0. We were 11 and 1 in the whole season. And maybe it was longer. I'm trying to remember all the games. Like I think we were 11 weeks, 12 weeks, 2 games, so 24. games total because we are 24 team matches against other teams. We pretty much wiped the floor. I think we had 4 total losses, but like realistically, we lost against only one important team. And that still sticks with me because here are these kids that I like. This sounds really bad. This is going to sound really conceited again. I built them up from the fucking ashes. Their former coach was dealing with, like, I think it was Crohn's disease or something like that. Um, sorry, I'm leaking his shit, but like he was in so much pain he couldn't coach. Our manager dipped out halfway through. Um, our little baby manager, love you, Hunts, um, took the reins and got us as many scrims as possible. And it was hard. But I think about it now where there's a deep emotional connection I have. And I had, like, probably a little bit of autism. I don't know what it is actually, but I'm not going to self diagnose because anyone who has to deal with any of those types of things, they know. I don't want to discount that. But when I do talk to people, I put a huge amount of trust in them. Like, I don't keep people around me typically. I just don't. Because esports industry has not treated anyone nicely, really. I've had so many backstabbings happen that it's just like a common occurrence. So I just don't put my eggs in the basket of anyone. But when I did with that team, like that hurt. That fucking burned.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can even say AE. Like, I fled after AE broke up. I fled. I mean, I burned myself
That's a
out.
reasonable response. But that again, but that's something to note, right? Like that's a reasonable response from you because you put so much time, you put so much effort. There is so many things going on. And that's not to equivalate create an equivalent thing with the team where they all left and what for you leaving. I know their pain. If I was those players, like, yeah, I would have left too. If Dirty Bomb took off and we would have done things and we hit a loss like that to be able to be promoted, even
Mm.
as the IGL, even with all the work I put into myself to improve myself, oh my god, I would have been crying. I cried when Doot Doot, my original team, like my OG roster, when we lost for our Alienware weeklies or whatever it was. I cried. I had to leave the Discord. We didn't like we weren't breaking up, but like that was our showing. Like that was our game to win, and I just bawled my eyes out. So
No, I've done. I mean, yeah, even with like, I keep relating it to Alter Ego just because it's like the only like similar experience I've had. Is like, I mean, I cried. I mean, I ran straight to my wife after I heard the news. I didn't know what to do. I was a fucking disaster. Like, I that team was all of my eggs in one basket. Like, that was the ticket, you know, and I was willing to do whatever it took. And like, I'm sure you did, and I'm sure everybody on that team, just to go 11-1, you know, that's insane. You know, everybody put in their time and effort into that to really get where you guys were. And then all of a sudden, like, I mean, a devastating loss, like going to Europe and then losing when you were like one of the favorites to at least get top five, you know? And then
yeah,
even like a promotion tournament, like you guys losing a promotion, which would catapulted all of your careers, you know? I mean, until the chickens came, but that's the thing is like and there's so many of us out there that I'm sure they have had their heart broken over a little loss, you know, what seems to be such a small loss at the time. And even the big ones, like how do you recover for that? And like, I'll point out like Astralis back in their like Counter Strike Prime days. Do you remember them hiring that mental coach, the therapist?
yes, yeah.
That was
Even
significant. Like that was
OG.
huge. Yeah, OG did too. They
I
hired the
think
same
people were
one.
No, yeah, no. I mean, I didn't mean he's like an old gangster, like he
Oh,
old or
oh,
old gamer, like he's an old guard guy. Like he was the guy that I think really put in the fucking work, like did the shit. So
yeah. I That's really it. Is like, and we've talked about LeBron and like how much money he spends on like his own health, and that's the thing is like these organizations they do try to provide a little bit of their health, but like how do you really recover from a loss like that? How do you like pick yourself up and keep going like that? That's like losing the NBA finals. Like it's hard. I'm sure
yeah,
I'm sure none of them who loses on that finals is fucking the Chiefs tonight. They were the expected team or at least probably 50% to win, you know? Like it was pretty even. And they got stomped tonight. How do they come back and recover next season? Like what do you do
yeah.
differently? What can you do differently? They literally went what? 16 and 2? 15 and 2?
I'd have to go back and see. Yeah.
So that's all. Is like what do you even do? And like that's where it gets difficult is like that's where you have to find somebody or like have a leader in the team that makes that mental finally okay, you know? Or is at least able to pull in the reins, even when them themselves are failing, you know? And that's a lot what managers do is like we try to hold it together, you know? Like I was faking it until I made it. I actually tried to freaking bring the team back. Like I literally was like almost begging on my knees. Although I think it's time to wrap this up, Sam.
Well, let's do a positive note then.
Okay. All right. I'm down for a positive one.
So
No more talking about
here
chickens.
we that's gonna give me the real PTSD.
Fucking
Goddamn chickens, dude. Maybe that's my new nickname. Change over to chicken. That would be
chicken.
terrible.
Oh my god.
Hey, they're the closest descendant to dinosaurs, though. What can I say?
RAR
So,
XD.
oh, Jesus. So let me go down the list. Collegiate esports, there are some great people. Like, hopefully, maybe we can bring Guy on next week,
Okay.
or the week after. I would love whether it be Supernova. I think it'd be cool to talk to Supernova because they are. I think they're like legit. Like they've been in these scenes. Like it's not. And it would be interesting just thing to talk to Fear. We can reach out to Bull. Even like Polestar, like I want to know why they bought a spot rather than qualifying. I think they could have. Like even like when I was talking to Carson, like it was possible they could have. So what's the point of buying the spot? I know we're never gonna get liquid, but that'd be cool.
Mm,
Um,
Luminosity
I
even
just want to
investing
get
in
a
tier 2.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I got collegiate. They can still do it. Like there are good people that are doing amazing things, and they have to clout themselves up, or people won't take them seriously. T2 Overwatch, or not T2 Over, T2 League of Legends, and all the T2 scenes are coming up. Like Team Liquid bought a spot in Overwatch Championship Series. I could reach out to see a couple players, see if they'd be willing to talk about that, or get someone there. Um, it's just it's there, like it's here for the taking. Not even that. Let me do it on a positive end. The torch is here. You have it. I'm not touching that shit anymore. I carried it for too goddamn long. This here is the opportunity. Like I want to hear the future and the realities and the pitfalls from collegiate. I want to hear the realities and the futures and the pitfalls from T2 teams that are going like knife knife to knife hand to hand combat with big orgs that have big money, and how are they going to not repeat the same mistakes that these orgs are committing, right?
Yeah.
I want to see the positive. I don't even need to talk about like I don't want to talk to complexity. I don't want to talk to um what was the other team?
Envious or
Envious. I don't want to, yeah, Envious. What was the other one? There was a
you
third
said
one.
you said
I
one
would
more. I don't remember what it
there was
was.
Optic
I mean,
too. I don't want to talk to them. Like I really don't. But I do want to see the teams that are coming up and doing the right. Like I want to see that. Like I don't need to tell them I don't want to show them the core pillars. I don't want them to do that. Like I want them to find it for themselves. It's like Stonehenge. Like it's buried there somewhere. We know where it is. I just don't want to point to it because you know what's going to happen if something goes badly or if it's not an authentic idea, they're going to immediately point to the people of the past rather than putting their own spin on it. You've done this. You've created your own spin on it. You have your own shit. Like, you are a consultant. I
Yeah.
don't want to be a consultant anymore. So, like, I'm ready to pass the torch even further. Like, I'm ready to point. I'll point down the path of where you shouldn't be going, and then you can hold the light.
Yeah, well, and even
So,
like, and that's the goal is like redirect the ship, you know, and like small effect will do good is what I is what I'm thinking
yeah,
honestly, and like I will always like be able to communicate and stuff like that, and I want to show people what you can actually do, and a lot of the stuff that I've learned. So it's just more of like let's move on, you know. This is a good move on kind of story, you know. Let's help them and then see what happens. Down to light the fuse.
yeah, and it's not. It's going to be a process. It's not going to be an immediate destination. So, so I just if they need help, much like you, if they need help, I'll hold my hand up, pick y'all up, get it going, and then you're gonna do the same with everyone else. Cause I'm an old man, so
He's leaning into it now. Gotta lean into it, Sam.
I
But
have
yeah,
to.
on a on the positive side there, I mean this has been awesome. Episode 2 in the books. We'll see you again next Sunday. Hopefully I won't be late like I was today. And we'll
Hey,
see
it
you
was for
again.
good reason.
Yeah, Super Bowl.
Peace.
Go Birds. Peace out, guys.
Yeah, I guess.